I've been known to play around with DJ software, and hardware from time to time, especially this time of year when every night is a potential dance party, and I'm the only DJ around. Anyway, my lifelong goal for at least the past couple of years has been to make everything and anything produce a clock for Eurorack modular sequencers and MIDI sequencers. In my other video, you can see how I grabbed a clock from other DJs doing their stuff live on YouTube, and that worked pretty good, from audio. But as I'll be doing the DJing, I want something more solid and less fiddly. As DJ Mixxx is still my software of choice, I'm ignoring Serato and Rekordbox for any serious fun in the future. Even though supposedly there's a way to get a MIDI clock out by routing link protocol and software through Ableton Live, which I don't use or like, and then configuring that to send the MIDI clock, which would still need to be converted into a clock pulse for the modular. I haven't really seen a truly synchronized and locked clock solution from a DJ software. I don't know about you guys, but I really need those percussive loops and whatever else to align perfectly to avoid the dreaded doubling of the beat, which sounds really amateur. Mixxx is free, hackable, open source, and accessible, which is why it's still being used by a vast number of occasional DJs, such as myself. After a pause from it for 6 or 7 years, I'm really pleased with all the new features and additions, especially the scripting capability for intelligently configuring DJ controllers, but also for sending data out like beat active on beats. On the surface, one might think, wow, it outputs MIDI clock. Now I can sync all my gear to playing tracks. How cool is that? Well, unfortunately, that's not the story at all. A fellow named Michael Stahl, who appears to also be a ham radio operator like myself, designed a script to send data to some DMX hardware via MIDI for controlling stage lights and the such. This keeps them in timing with the beat using the beat active output of Mixxx. Each time a beat is encountered, the script then sends out a MIDI node on, and then a node off message after. So I hooked up the USB to MIDI and ran the MIDI through my little MIDI to clock module after changing it to respond to the specific note, and then create a clock from it. I saw the light pulsing and excitedly patched the clock out over to my chord sequential to run a drum sequence along with music. I was so disappointed by how far out of phase the beat was. I could only think it's a latency issue with the audio, and this would need to be corrected with an adjustable delay. Enter the sequential. I had decided to patch the MIDI straight into the sequential's MIDI in, and do the correction there as a modification of the program. Using the drum's trigger length as a delay offset, I started to test it out. It could be aligned, but the clock was all over the place. It would shift out over time and then back in. So here's what's happening. First, the JavaScript can only execute at 20 millisecond intervals, so sending 1/24th of a quarter note MIDI clock is out of the question. At 120 BPM, a MIDI clock must be sent every 20.83 milliseconds. With the cycle resolution of 20 milliseconds in the JavaScript, the next lower BPM rate would be 60 BPM. So that's not happening. I soon realized that any MIDI clocking would need to be created externally. But first we need to get a stable beat timing. This is also a challenge because, as can be seen here, the calls to the script come at different times from the beat, and beat active will come on if within 50 milliseconds of the beat. It's like a guessing game as to where the beat actually is. The resulting beat times, as discovered with the sequential, were totally variable. These could be averaged over time, but still wouldn't be accurate enough to synchronize percussion sequences and the like. It was at that point I discovered the beat distance parameter. This, when called, gives the present playhead point between two beats on the selected deck as a value between 0 and 1. Using this, we can add on the time remaining to predict when the next beat will occur. Because the exact beat length is never really known, even the BPM parameter rounds to the nearest whole number, we must take an average over 2 beats, then use the previous beat time as the offset. To be honest, I wasn't really sure this was going to work, but it did right away. The phase still needs to be dealt with. From the very first beat encountered, the phase is set. Now we can pretty much guarantee it is 30 to 50 milliseconds before the actual beat. Then the audio latency will add to that difference, so it's actually bigger. The phase needs to be adjustable on the module, as even if all was equal, some songs aren't perfectly aligned with the beat markers, so need some adjusting anyway. The best and easiest way to deal with these complex delays is to have a running clock inside the module. The updates will speed up or slow down the running clock to match the phase you have adjusted to. This may seem elaborate, but remember we do need a 24 ppqn MIDI clock to make the module flexible. To make the phase adjustment more fine, internally the module runs at 96 ppqn. This could be an option to bring out to the MIDI jack as well. So here's where the project is at this time. I have also added the VU meter CV output, which is very useful for quieting a percussion loop after a build to a drop, or just to match the levels at hand with the modular rack going through the VCA. Once set, it does not fall out of sync, which is what we want, right? Interestingly, the Sequoia also has a running clock that is tuned with the incoming clock pulses, so not bad for two running together in series, eh? Tune in again for part 2 of this fun and interesting project. Thanks for watching!